Hello, listeners, and welcome to this Halloween special of Pop Screen. I'm your host, Graham Williamson. I'm a filmmaker whose new short film, produced by the BFI Our Screen Heritage Project, is called Song of the Suburbs. It's currently touring around the UK, and you can follow me on social media to get some information on where it's screening in the EU. There'll be more about that at the back end of the show. But this week I've been joined by
Aidan. Hello there.
Hey Aidan, where can people find you?
On Letterboxd under the username Aidan F, though lately I have not been posting as much on there, I'll be honest. Life. But apart from that, yeah, you can mainly find me there. You can find me on Blue Sky under the handle Locations Aidan, I believe. I can't remember when the last time I've actually done one of these plugins now. So yeah, those areas listed.
Yes, yeah. Look on a social media site that isn't X and just type in Aidan and you'll probably get him sooner or later.
Yeah.
How many Aidans are there?
Well, I don't know really, because
There's a lot, right?
there is a lot of Aidens, yeah.
Yes. But you brought this film to my attention because I think it was inevitable, really, that we would cover this artist at this time.
Well, because I think a running theme of 2025 is so far death of musical geniuses or musical idols in a way. Because, like I said, we lost Sly Stone this year, we lost Brian Wilson this year, and the one that hit me hardest this year was Ozzy Osbourne. So, dropping it right in the deep end, because we're going to be talking about him probably the mostest on this episode. He's the subject.
Well, yeah, the alternative is we talk about Gene Simmons, and I'm not doing that.
But inevitably, we are going to have to talk about him. You do realise that.
It's not if I've got anything to do with it. No, it's yes. Both Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons are in this film. It's the 1986. Would you say comedy horror? It's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but I'm not sure it quite.
In a way, I mean, it's. I mean, not in the sense of like, I don't know, Monster Squad or anything like that. It's probably it's hard. I mean, definitely supernatural. It fits into that kind of Stranger Things ballpark, I guess, before Stranger Things was even a thing. But even so, yeah, I mean, you'd still call it like I would just define it as a supernatural horror, just with a twist of heavy metal. Really, that's really round about it.
Yeah, it is Trick or Treat by Charles Martin Smith, who broke through in one of, I think, the most pop screen friendly films that we can't do for pop screen because it neither stars nor is about a pop star. But nevertheless, music runs all the way through it. He played Terry in American Graffiti before.
Oh, did he now?
Director. Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay. Because I knew he was an actor before he got his hand at directing, because he's done like all sorts from like Trick or Treat to Air Bud. Yes, that is the same director, which is the same director. But the other place I know him from as an actor was he appeared in Starman by John Carpenter. As the kind of reporter who's investigating Jeff Bridges' titular Starman, which I thought he was damn good in. He's a really good performance, and I think a very underrated John Carpenter film, really.
It's been ages since I watched Starman. I should maybe dig that out again, because you're right, it's that and maybe to a lesser extent Christine are the ones from that amazing 80s run that never get the love they deserve.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, like I say, Charles Martin Smith, actor as well as director for this, and to be honest, looking at Trick or Treat from an objective point of view, there are parts of this that I found were pretty damn fun.
Yeah,
I'll be
yeah.
honest. Yeah.
I think fun is like the baseline of what you can say about it. There are things that you're going to have to dilute according to taste for, which I'm sure we'll get on to, but I cannot imagine anyone not finding this to be at least a fun time.
Definitely. Because, like I say, it fits into that 80s mold where it's not. Well, it's not going for say the John. Well, it is kind of going for a little bit of John Carpenter in there, but it's not like Halloween where it's just like completely. I don't know, pared back in a way.
Well,
More
that's like
slim.
a straight up
Yeah,
horror. I think
yeah.
the thing about Trick or Treat, and you did mention Stranger Things earlier, and I am not one of those guys who, can't talk about 80s horror without wanging on about Stranger Things. That's not my attitude at all. But if you are looking for 80s horror that has that kind of Stranger Things, semi-ironic, young adults kind of vibe to it, you could do a lot worse than this, I think.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I think it's definitely got it knows what it wants to do, and I think it's pretty damn focused as well. So yeah, no, completely agree.
And a pretty big part of what it wants to do is parody something that was going on in the news at the moment, which is the birth of the Parent Resource Music Council,
Mm,
the panic over supposed backmasking in rock records, and
hmm
the wider, what is now known as the Satanic Panic.
Yes, which is kind of where I guess where you're getting the satirical edge to this film, or you're getting it as a comedy horror vibes going for it, isn't it?
Mm,
Really, because and I think that's where it wears its heart firmly on its sleeve when and it's deeply ironic that considering that Ozzy Osbourne's cameo in this
yeah.
is that of a reverend pastor who's crying, "Isn't rock and roll horrible?" Considering this man's career is been nothing but that.
Now, this cameo, he appears on television on a sort of fake talk show talking about the evils of rock and roll. And
Mm,
normally, this is the juncture in the podcast where we like to say whether our musical artist of the week is a good actor, whether they've got screen presence. I think everything in assessing this Ozzy Osbourne performance is secondary to the fact that he is absolutely off his face throughout.
That's Aussie for you. Um, I mean, yeah, it's just completely that, isn't it? Because, like I say, it is basically playing himself as a pastor, and yeah, you can't look past that at all, can you?
Well, it's like it's weirdly effective because
Yeah,
if you look at news reports from this time, and I'm sure there's one in particular that I'm sure we'll get onto, the people who were being lined up to make the case that rock was the devil's work and these backwards messages corrupting kids' minds were the most stammery, uncharismatic guys you could possibly hope to encounter.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
this is like one of the last gasps of the pre-social media era where it's possible to be shit on camera. Nowadays, it's like everyone has media training, but back then people could just be rubbish. And I think accidentally, Ozzy manages that. It's like whatever he's on is just damping down all of the massive rock star charisma he's had and just made him into this weird, stumbly dude who doesn't quite suit his haircut, talking, reading out bad heavy metal lyrics.
Because what I noted the line down that he reads, because obviously it's a jab at sexual politics and heavy metal records.
Mm,
And what he reads is in the most, not in an American Southern pastor voice that you would expect. It is his normal Brummy accent that's coming out,
yeah.
and he says, "And I'm gonna drive my long steel missile down your love channel," and it's just like you are not selling me on this, but you know what? I'm for it.
It's weirdly perfect. It's like, of course, a couple of years before this, this is Spinal Tap was released, which set the bar for parodic, sexist heavy metal lyrics very, very high. But I think that manages to I don't want to say rise to the occasion, but you see where I'm going.
Yeah, it's oh, it's a special moment, and to be honest, I quite enjoyed it. Even though Ozzy only appears in this, and it's widely known if you've seen the film, Ozzy only appears in Trick or Treat for at least like 3 minutes of screen time. He's not in it for long.
Mm.
So yeah, you've only got to judge this one bit, and to be honest, it is quite enjoyable.
Yeah, as blatant novelty cameos go, it's one of the better ones we've done on this show.
Yeah, yeah. Because let's be honest, it was either doing this for Pop Screen or one of his like voice cameos that he did in children's films in like the 2010s or so. You know,
Well,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, the other option I had, which I hinted at earlier, but the feral option, the nuclear option, was to do the Geraldo Rivera special, exposing Satan's underground. Which have you
I was.
seen this?
No, I hadn't. No, but I remember you telling me this over an email, and I felt like I'm curious to learn more about it because it would be something that I would watch if only. Yeah, no, but continue, please, Graham.
It's wild. I mean, Geraldo. He's almost someone I like now because he's a Republican and everything he says is pure like 80s Republican shit. You know, he was
Mm.
talking recently about the Charlie Kirk shooting and he was blaming
Oh
video
yeah.
games. And I thought, this is what I want. You know, none of this new kind of weird ass white nationalist republicanism.
Yeah.
Just blame video games, blame heavy metal. Just play the hits, man. Take me back.
Oh god,
Uh,
it's the Jack Thompson school of
yes,
yeah, very Jack, yeah. It's like okay, come on. Yeah,
no,
just blame every
totally.
yeah. Yeah, no, come on, man. Yeah.
So he's quite an absurd figure. Like his big hit, I guess, as a journalist was that he did a live TV event where he was going to he'd found Al Capone's secret vault and he was going to open it live on air, and it turned out it contained nothing really.
Mm,
Um, so he's got form for embarrassing himself in public, but he did this extraordinary hour and a half special, an hour and a half special of which it feels like about 65 to 70 minutes is
mm.
him saying, now don't let your children watch this is very disturbing, uh, which I assume is why every single kid in America watched it. um, but you know, even even by the standards of 80s satanic panic stuff, which is something that I have, as kitschy and funny as it is, it's something that I have a special revulsion for.
It's yeah, no, I
Yeah,
completely agree. It's something that is completely just gratuitous and tasteless, but also kind of shrilly at the same time. It's there's a few that I've seen. I mean, we've talked about our morbid curiosity for the work of Ron Ormond.
oh
And
God,
God,
yeah.
wow! And I know he's not 80s, but at the same time, it's like
You can
what?
see him moving towards that, can't you? You can see him as a
Yeah,
step on the road. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's all good fun until you know you have to put out of your head that in some cases there were actual cases of non-satanic actual child abuse going on here that
Mm,
never went to court because they all got snowballed up into this utter bullshit from the religious right. But
mm.
the Geraldo special is really irresponsible. Like it identifies child witnesses by name, and you sort of think, wow, it's a good job none of these kids were actually victims of anything they say that you're saying they've been victims of. Otherwise, you know, there'd be a satanic cabal who knew their name right now. Can you live with that on your conscience, Geraldo? Um, it's the stupidest collection of guests. They have Zena LaVey, the daughter of Anton LaVey, in,
Okay. What?
who also has a pop screen connection in that there are whole conspiracy theories nowadays that have been spun around the fact that Zena LaVey really, really, really looks like Taylor Swift.
I'm going to actually Google this now, live on air. Tina Zabir, did you say?
LaVey,
Oh, LaVey.
Lavey.
Vey. Tina LaVey. Xena Shrek? Oh no, wait, no, yeah, no, I can see. Yep.
Yeah.
there's a TikTok comparison, for God's sake, Graham. And it says in the title, Tina LaVey, the Satanic Rituals TikTok.
I have regularly thought that Satan was real when I've logged onto TikTok, so this makes sense.
Anyway, yes, carry on.
But of course, the reason why we're talking about this excrescence in television history is, of course, because it has a very brief appearance by Ozzy Osbourne, who was allowed to get a couple of sentences out by Geraldo. He's being interviewed by satellite from Britain. He looks more composed than he is in Trick or Treat. I'll give him that. It may be that compared to Geraldo, everyone sounds like they're lucid and talking sense, but he gets a few good points off. He talks about how the darkness of Black Sabbath wasn't anything to do with devil worship. It was to do with growing up working class in a pretty rough industrial town, which is something that I think a lot of the sort of moral panickers who were tuning into this show might not have been aware of.
And some of those early Black Sabbath songs as well were directed towards political issues at the time, no less so than, say, like, I don't know, the heavy songwriters of like America of the 1960s as well. I mean, War Pigs, as far as and Children of the Grave, I think were about not Vietnam, but like war protest in general.
I think War Pigs is pretty unambiguous, right? I think even a crack journalist like Geraldo Rivera could probably work out what that was about.
Yeah. But Children of the Grave, obviously, you could make an argument, to deal with morbidity and death and things like that. But even then, those are key parts of war as well. It's, duh.
It's really strange because it was like the Geraldo special came a couple of years after Trick or Treat, and by that point, you really are in the terminal stages of heavy metal being a target for moral panics. In 5 years' time, this special would be about gangster rap.
Yeah, no, it would. And I guess as well, if they were talking about the Norwegian black metal scene as well, then they would have maybe a real axe to grind. But at the same time, I mean, the 80s Metal Panic, I mean, I just don't see it as much different from, say, like the Video Nasties Panic.
Yeah.
It's got the same battering average as, say, here's some strange, tenuous links into murder and real life murder victims and cases, and which, I mean, I'm not going to deny it, but it's at the same time, it's a leap, don't you think?
Yeah. A lot of these things are very strained, and a lot of it is like, I'm sure if some like disenfranchised teen in the arse end of nowhere like takes drugs and kills someone, they might well be listening to heavy metal because, as Ozzy makes clear when he's talking about why he writes the stuff, that's kind of their music at this point in history. That's what you listen to if your life's a piece of shit and you live out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, totally agree with that. It's and that was their sound from all the way from, when did Sabbath start? Like early 60s, late 60s, early 70s or so. So by this
Yes.
point, it would be like 20 years. So he's made no difference to change his sound at any point to like switch to a different genre of music.
There is quite a weird moment where Geraldo acknowledges that Ozzy is less excessive than some of the newer heavy metal bands. Now, I think
Less excessive. Okay.
Well, one thing that this podcast is an exercise in is proving that I have a tin ear for metal. So I'm just going to read out the names that he says to you, and I'll see if do you think that these are extreme metal.
Go ahead.
You're less extreme than Venom or Slayer or Iron Maiden or some of the others.
Who were some of the others? Yeah, that's well, Venom. I haven't listened to Iron Maiden. I'll be honest. I've controversial it is. I've never quite liked them in a way. It's that just never really worked for me. And who was the other one? Sorry,
Slayer.
Slayer again. Yeah, no, again. No, never really listened to them. So yeah, I can't
I
comment.
guess I found it funny because, like, Bruce Dickinson is basically, now that Ozzy's gone, he's going to take the throne as cuddly heavy metal national treasure, right?
Between that and Rob Halford, yeah, between them two, I would say.
Yeah, so it's quite funny hearing Geraldo talk about Iron Maiden as if they're like Burzum or something.
What a strange individual. I mean, yeah.
But to go back into Trick or Treat, one of the funniest examples of this moral panic as it's related to metal, that is not part of the wider satanic panic, it is a pure metal thing, is something which is a central plot point in Trick or Treat, which is backmasking backwards messages on records.
Which is kind of where I started to feel that this was actually really quite enticing, because I guess a lot of horror of the 80s would go for like big, even though Trick or Treat does have it, like big special effects sequences and maybe jump scares as well and gore and things like that. But with Trick or Treat, it's constantly delving into the backwards messaging of vinyl records and tape cassettes. And the filmmaking completely reflects that. So it's always close-ups of like the crackle of a vinyl on the needle, and our lead character Eddie just like twisting the record just to see what messages are lying underneath. I believe the rock star Sammy Kerr in this film.
Sammy Kerr, yeah.
Sammy Kerr.
Sammy, no one Kerr.
Yeah. And it's basically that for like God knows how many minutes at a time, and I just wanted a whole film of that, to be honest. It's like
this is how tone deaf I am when it comes to metal. When he started to play Sammy Kerr's records backwards, I was like, "Oh, this one's not bad actually. It's got a kind of Madlib vibe to it."
I wanted a whole film of that where it's just basically being a dark, twisted version of a Barry Jenkins movie. It's that's what I saw it as.
Yes. Yeah, that's good. Very few opportunities for Barry Jenkins's vinyl fetishism in the Lion King prequel. I was very disappointed there. But yeah, Sammy Kerr is. Did you find the way that he was introduced slightly weird?
No, definitely weird. Because obviously, I mean, because the way he's introduced is like through a television report of his death. That's how it's spoiled out. But there were parts in it where it's like a news report of him obviously giving interviews about Satan, devil worshipping, all those cliches. And then also parts of him where he's performing on stage where he's got the snake biting its head off and drinking its blood at the same time and dousing it in its blood. And I get the reference because obviously it's about Ozzy's biting a bat's head on stage. Or I think there was another incident with Alice Cooper and a chicken or something like that, where you killed a chicken in front of a live audience or something like that. So it's playing with that mythology. But even those guys would look at Sammy Kerr and just go, God, mate, should we call the RSPCA? I mean...
And I love this bit because the newsreader who's talking over this is saying he's noted for his suggestive lyrics. And you think, mate, he's ripping apart a snake on stage. I hardly think a bit of innuendo in his songs is the bit that people are objecting to here.
Basking in its blood. It's full of Elizabeth Bathory mode. I mean, it's wow.
Yeah, I thought that was funny, and I thought it was both funny and quite sweet that part of the setup is that Sammy Kerr has died. Our hero Eddie is like distraught. Sammy was his idol, but it's specified that he died at the what we're told is the too young, indeed totemic age of 38.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that is mentioned, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that trying to riff on the 27 Club in
I
a way?
feel like my prediction is that the original script was about the 27 Club. And then once Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons sign on to this, someone goes, mate, they're getting on a bit. You might not want to rub it in that, they didn't live as fast and die as young as people thought they would. Make
Yeah.
it 38.
Which robs the impact, isn't it? Because
Does
that's
a
the whole
bit.
point. That's the whole point of the 27 Club. It's
Live
you
at
know,
a reasonable speed. Die
y-
not young exactly, but not old.
yeah, died of middle-aged Matt. Wait, what? Yeah.
Yeah, so this part of it is quite shaky in terms of building a credible fictional artist, which is always something I enjoy in movies. But what does work is when you hear and see some of his music, including hits like "Fuck with Fire" and "Torture's Too Kind."
Now, I wasn't paying attention as much to the iconography of the legendary Sammy Kerr or the hits. I was just kind of enjoying the kind of spectacle of it all. So yeah, no, I probably should have, but at the same time, it was just kind of white noise. A
There's
lot
some
of it,
good little
yeah.
details in there. There's an album called Excite where he seems to be like ripping off the skin on his face and there's lizard scales underneath. And I have to believe that a young David Icke saw this film.
True, very true.
Yeah. So he's pretty good. He's played by a guy called Tony Fields, who did a fair bit of stuff. His big role is in Richard Attenborough's A Chorus Line, which I think is great because if there's one like hard rock subgenre, which is basically theatre kid shit, it's 80s hair metal, right?
Yeah, no, completely agree. Because you couldn't get away with this for like say classical music or anything like that. It's
No,
yeah,
you
no,
couldn't
no,
you
no,
couldn't
no,
even
you
have him
couldn't.
as a punk. I think he would be implausible as a punk, but as an 80s metal star, you're like, oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, I
Because
believe that.
it's all about the theatrics, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the reason. Yeah. So no, it completely works. Yeah. No, definitely agree.
So he's good. What do you think of we briefly mentioned him. What do you think of Eddie, our hero in this?
Well, I've just googled him now because he's played by an actor called Mark Price, who,
Hmm.
like I say, I mean, I don't want to rag on the Stranger Things connection too much because that's
Hmm.
the kind of whole zeitgeist of it, isn't it? Of this
Yeah.
era of like nostalgia and the 80s horror scene. Um, I as a performance, I didn't mind it. I didn't mind him. I'll be
Yeah.
honest. I didn't mind. I don't think he's terrible. I don't think he's good either. But at the same time, I think it's the kind of performance that Martin Smith wanted from the film for leading hero. Because it's like the one thing that did bother me is that why are the bullies picking on him for being a heavy metal lover? I mean, that's
It's
one of the
weird,
few.
that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was not old enough in the 80s to say whether this was true or not. I remember, goths used to get a bit of mockery when I was a kid. So, it's
Hmm.
possible that heavy metal fans really did get this sort of stick. But it does feel like all that sort of John Hughesy stuff in the high school with the bullies
Yeah.
kind of diffuses what should be the main and the more plausible uh, vector of conflict in the film, which is heavy metal kids versus, the adult world that's trying to censor their records.
It does feel out of place actually, the more you mention it. But yeah, you're right. it's those two genres clashing, and I just don't think it quite mixes so well, does it?
Mm.
It's no, I can see your point there. Yeah, definitely.
It is a flaw in the film, I think, although this is one of those things where it depends on taste. I know a lot of people really love 80s high school comedies, and I think if you are one of those people, this part of the film will go down a lot better with you. But I don't, and I felt like that aspect of it kept hanging around in the film for much longer than it needed to. Like we're well into the supernatural stuff by the time it goes away.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Because, like I said, and I think those sequences are the least interesting aspects of the film.
Mm.
Because, like I said, anything to do with Sammy Kerr or the myth of Sammy Kerr before he died at the ripe young age of 38 is much more my wheelhouse. I mean, personally speaking, I mean, I've been very indifferent towards John Hughes. I don't care about his films all that much.
Same, yeah.
Never been for me, to be honest. So, but apart from that aspect, if you were to ask me, it's a sticking point, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just it's not bad, but it's something that fits slightly strangely. Although I don't know, part of the reason why it fits quite oddly is that he goes to perhaps the school with the most homoerotic bullies in the whole of
I
America.
noticed this as well because right on the opening, it is very homoerotic, isn't it? Where where
Yeah.
the camera's lingering on the boys in the showering room, in the gym showering room, and it's just like, wow, okay. Even like say Tony Scott in Top Gun mode would go, oh wow, should tone that down a bit, shouldn't you?
And all of their ideas for bullying Eddie are like, "Hey, let's get him naked in a public place," and it's like, I feel like you should just sort of sit down and work some stuff out with Eddie. I think there's something else underpinning this bullying camp. Maybe this is why it doesn't make sense. This is
Mm,
why, you know, yeah, um, it is quite strange.
mm. It is, isn't it? Did you also spot? I got distracted by Eddie's T-shirt a lot, the skull T-shirt,
Oh.
because it kept reminding me of Sid's T-shirt from Toy Story. I just get, is that where John Lasseter got that idea from for his character, from the main villain of Toy Story?
Maybe. I mean, Liam Cricks often puts the carpet from the Overlook Hotel in his movies, doesn't he? So there's a certain horror nerd as sort of tendency over at Pixar.
And Pixar presents the new film from John Carpenter. Yeah. Oh my god, I would actually watch that now.
Disney Pixar's Prince of Darkness. Yes, why not? It can't do worse than Alio.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Price, as you say, he's a guy who's best known for Family Ties, which is one of those sort of wholesome sitcoms that The Simpsons basically swept away. Um, and he's fine in it. You know, he's a sitcom guy. He can time a line well. I
Mm,
think the fact that I'm not engaged with a lot of the subplots that, don't bring him into contact with Sammy Kerr is not really his fault. And he did say a couple
yeah.
of things that made me laugh. I like when he's listening to the radio and it plays easy listening for about 3 seconds and he just goes, death's preferable to this shit.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's hard not to feel that the film is stolen by Tony Fields as Sammy Kerr.
No, I completely because I think in a lot of ways I think he's the main character of this, don't you? Well, maybe so, but maybe the focus should have been on him as the lead and Mark Price is maybe secondary. I don't know. It's one of those chicken and egg sequences where I just think that every way you switch the relationship round, I still think you probably would have got the same effects.
Yeah. I mean, there's a moment late on where he seems to have been killed, and even without looking at the counter, you sort of know that it's a false ending because you think there's no way that they're going to let this guy go out on such a pathetic note. I think by the end of it, they sort of know that they've got a really, really fun villain here.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's where a lot of the film's magic, when the film does start to come alive, where it is dealing with the supernatural aspect, the supernaturalisms of its leading rock star, where he's covered in electricity, or when there's like a really weird, gangly, like not so much Cronenberg body horror, but at the same time, it's more alien ideas. I mean, the whole scene with I think is it when one of Eddie's bullies is making out with a girl in the car, and she puts on is it a cassette of Sammy Kerr's last record or something like that? I can never quite
Yeah, the
remember.
car cassette player, if anyone wants even more nostalgia value from this film, there are so many shots of car cassette players in here.
Yeah, there's a lot, and then it's and then obviously she gets really sexually, engaged with this cassette, and and it all of a sudden just like basically turns into this really quite, well, not so, like I said, this is why I bring up the Cronenberg comparison, because it's not really grotesque, but it's on edge. I'd
Yeah.
say that. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I was thinking about Cronenberg a bit, and I was thinking about Videodrome, and I was thinking how both of those films are about moral panics of the 1980s, very, very 1980s moral panics. And both of them managed to critique it while also taking its the basic sort of fear that underpins it at face value. You know, the videos in Videodrome do harm people. The
Yeah.
music in Trick or Treat does contain satanic backwards messages that sort of open up a door to the occult world. You know, part of the irony of the films and part of the playfulness of them is that they do show this stuff happening, and you almost want to put the little South Park caption at the bottom, don't you? This is what Tipper Gore actually believes.
This is what Mary Whitehouse actually believes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of those sequences, isn't it? Yeah. I completely agree.
But it's quite funny, really, that I think they chose well with backwards messages because it's like you could have done satanic ritual abuse if you wanted to make a film about
Yeah.
moral
You could
panics in
yeah.
the
y-
80s.
Yeah,
But
definitely. You could have gone the obvious route and do like pentagrams drawn on in a field somewhere, couldn't you?
and,
And having the
and I
occult.
think yeah, and I think they chose the right path because even talking about fake child abuse allegations is a real downer, whereas backwards messages are hilarious. They're the
Yes.
stupidest fucking thing.
Oh, they certainly are. I mean, there's a whole, even though it's not like satanic panic or anything like that, there's the whole like say conspiracy theory angle of it as well.
Yeah,
I mean, like say for example, Paul is dead.
yeah.
Where it's like that whole it's a kind of it's riffing on that a little bit, which is like a completely more ridiculous idea to poke fun at. But you know what? I think it works. It's better than like say like if this put it this way, if Trick or Treat was an A24 horror, it totally would have been the latter end of the park. There would have been satanic rituals. There would have been like Wicker Man esque imagery or anything like that. No, it's completely it goes for the more ridiculous angle, but it makes it more subtler in a lot of ways, doesn't it?
The Ari Aster version of Trick or Treat, where it manages to brilliantly play both sides by saying, the satanic ritual abuse scare wasn't real, but at times middle-aged pudgy people took their clothes off, so there's still some real horror out there, guys.
The horror! I wonder how he's going to fit this into Eddington somehow. Uh,
Yes. That's the problem. As his films get more starry, the cast get too hot for him to go woo all naked people. You can't do that when your film's got Austin Butler and Emma Stone in.
No, you can't, can you? Yeah. I'm kind of glad that the he's starting to fall down a bit, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Fall off the
long,
pedestal a
gradual
little.
sobering up.
Oh well.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, one of the things that I think is funniest about this film's treatment of backwards messaging is it actually manages to predict some of the stupid ways this scandal would go. In because I don't know if I'm 100% right on this, but I think this film predates the famous Judas Priest trial, right?
Oh yeah, recall that. Yeah. Remind me what the Judas Priest trial was about again, because it's very dim. Because from what Priest I've listened to, what I've liked, but they've never been a band that I've actively sought out from. If that makes sense.
And when you were listening to them, did you feel a compulsion to kill yourself because the devil wanted you to?
No.
No, yeah. So another data point against the prosecution's case there. I think. No,
Yeah.
what happened in the Judas Priest trial is that the families of some kids who had either tried or succeeded in committing suicide, who were Judas Priest fans, got together and sued them based on the argument that they'd put backwards messages encouraging this on their records. And one of the band made the same point in court that Eddie does to Sammy at the end of this film, which is like, why do you want all your fans to kill themselves? Surely that's going to have a really negative impact on your record sales.
Yeah. Well, it brings up Ozzy again, because I think one of his songs from, I believe it's his debut solo album, Blizzard of Oz. I think it's Suicide Solution, which there was a bit of controversy around that, because I think there was a real life case of a teen committing suicide while listening to that song, or having it play in the background or something like that. I can't remember the details.
I think I heard that. Yeah, I was sort of vaguely aware of that. And, he made the same point that if I had that power to influence people, I would put subliminal messages saying, buy more Ozzy Osbourne records.
Yeah. No, if I was a famous heavy metal singer, I would totally do that as well, Ozzy. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. It became when Chris Morris started off on radio, he did a regular bit on GLR mocking claims of backwards messages, and I think he actually got in some of the more credulous papers. But his thing was that he was arguing that this isn't just a heavy metal thing. He could play Jason Donovan backwards and find obscene sexual messages and violent messages in it. There's one of them in the first series of Blue Jam where he plays the Diana version of Candle in the Wind backwards. And I think the message he finds might be something where you'd have to, it might get this podcast age blocked under new government laws on the internet, but it's a great sketch.
Oh dear.
So yeah, we should wrap up by talking about Aussie because it's as you say, it's far from the first time that we've had to do an in memoriam podcast this year. If we hadn't done Love and Mercy very early on, we'd have done a Brian Wilson episode. We've done a David Lynch episode. We've done a Sly Stone episode, and now
it's Ozzy's turn.
got to
But
talk
then,
about Aussie. Yeah.
but then again, we still haven't talked about Gene yet, and I know you're desperate to talk about Gene, Graham.
My original notes have the film features cameos from several rock legends and Gene Simmons. He's fun in this. I'll say this. Let's talk purely about his appearance in this film rather than his awful music and noxious politics.
And his long tongue. Don't forget the long tongue.
The long tongue I have no personal qualms with. But yeah, he's fun. He's fun as the local radio DJ.
Yeah, completely agree. He's there for a minute, and you know what? He just gets it. Surprisingly, like even him being a terrible human being, and I completely agree with Graham on this. It's he's the least awful thing about it. He is pretty fun. I will agree.
Yeah,
Anyway,
he plays Nuke, not to be confused with Nukey.
Well, anyway, back to Ozzy because
Back to Ozzy.
Yeah, what are you now as someone who's not into heavy metal, Graham? I'm going to twist the tables a little bit. How do you feel about his music and Black Sabbath in general?
There's very little of his music that I could say I know. I mean, I've heard the big Sabbath songs that everyone has, like Paranoid and War Pigs and things like that. And, you know, they're good. They're not my thing, but I can recognize that they are among the best examples of that thing. I think my main feelings when Ozzy died was that I'm just going to miss him being Ozzy, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's why there was such a mourning, really, because, like I say, when I saw aspects of the funeral being broadcast on television, it was just like, holy fuck, that's larger than like the Queen, you know? 'Cause
Yes.
it was massive, and I've never really seen a rock star being memorialized in that way before.
And I
Even like
love that it
even
all
yeah.
went back to Birmingham as well.
Yeah, no, definitely agree because that's it goes fully circle, and there's not many rock stars that I can think of because, like I said, they either die horribly young in plane accidents or car crashes or
At
heroin
the
overdoses.
too
Yeah,
young age of 38.
yes, going back to that, Graham. Um, but there's not many that whose stories feel complete. And
Yeah.
say what you will about Ozzy Osbourne, but at least his story felt complete.
Yeah, that he ended it as a hometown hero. I mean, there was that concert, wasn't there, which just happened like a week or something before he
Mm.
died.
Yeah, and you could really tell how hard it was for him because you could just see it basically whenever because, like I said, his health was like not the best, obviously, pretty
Yeah.
terrible in a lot of ways with his Parkinson's diagnosis, but he still championed on as much as he could. So
Yeah.
yeah, but at the same time, I mean, with Ozzy as well, I mean, you've also got to look back at his periods before this as well, like even during like the Osbournes, where I only found this out recently, but that's when his alcohol addiction was at his worst.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I found this out pretty recently because obviously, as I tend to do, I do a bit of research into the artist that I'm covering, and I've loved Ozzy's music for as much as I could, you know, for his
Yeah.
early solo stuff too, his Sabbath era, but during the Osbournes, that's when his alcohol addiction was actually really bad. Where I think Jack Osbourne was interviewed about it in a documentary clip where there was a lot of outtakes from the Osbournes that they didn't show because it was just far too real because everyone remembers the Osbournes where, oh, look at Ozzy just being just like, oh, isn't he so harmless, not knowing how to operate a television and yelling Sharon every 5 seconds.
Yes.
And that's not really any, but they didn't show you the harsh reality of it. They didn't show you the uglier side of his alcohol addiction, where he would just not necessarily. And I don't know the actual circumstances surrounding it. I don't know whether he was berated anyone or anything like that, but he was certainly just like destroying himself from the inside during that period, which is not what I would expect from Ozzy.
No, it's fascinating because I suppose you unconsciously assume that by the time a rock star has reached that sort of stage in their career where they're not regularly putting out new music, but they are unquestionably a legend and they can afford to live in a big fancy house with their wife and their kids, you assume that the demons have been conquered by this stage, right?
Yeah. No, you definitely would. You would think it would be like the Alice Cooper mode, where after he got rid of his alcohol addiction, he just channeled it into something else, which was his love for golf.
Yes, yeah.
which is odd when you think about it. But then when you think about it another time, it's just like, oh wait, no, I get your point. Fair enough. But with Ozzy, he never could quite do that. He could never quite get past his addiction all the way through until pretty late in life.
But I liked that concert happened. I think I've always found it quite powerful when artists are able to sort of dictate the terms that they leave the world by. You know, the obvious example is Bowie releasing Black Star, but there's as it becomes less of a paradox to be an aging rock star, as that sort of moves from being a thing that back in the 60s was unthinkable. That's the antithesis of what rock and roll is. And now, for about a generation, that's been a reality that we've had to face up to. You know, you have seen people who've, like Johnny Cash or Bowie, who've managed to have a suitable closing act.
Yeah, no, and Ozzy Osbourne's metal's answer to that.
Yeah,
And it's so, like I say, it's so palpable and so real in a lot of ways, isn't it? That way.
yeah. Yeah, it's always quite emotional, but it always makes me happy. You know, it's like to go back to the 27 Club thing, I think there is something much cooler in going out on an album that reveals how you feel about death, or on a big all-star concert where everyone gets together to talk about what a legend you are. That's much cooler than dying in a plane crash. Come on.
You can blame the Who for this, because as soon as they wrote the lyric, "I hope I die before I get old," you can blame them for that.
I do sometimes wonder how Roger Daltrey feels having to sing that in 2025. I think like Pete Townsend subtly let us know how he feels about being in the Who in general, but
Oh yeah, but yeah, like I say, Ozzy. I can't deny. I mean, the guy was just a legend, and
yeah,
even if you weren't a fan of his music, you can at least love him as a character
we
and get enamored
normally
with
have
him.
a zero tolerance policy for use of the word legend on this podcast, but I've used it, Aidan's used it, and I think we both agree this is worth, just dialing back the nausea that I feel whenever someone gets described as a legend these days. This is a worthy exception.
I won't be saying that on Axl Rose. Thank you very much.
So, Aidan, give me some reggae. No, give me a reminder of where people can find you online.
Letterboxd under the username Aidan F. Like I say, I've not been as prolific lately as I have been when I usually use the site, because I've been very busy lately on a project that I can't tell anyone about because I signed an NDA. Ha 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 ha. This is my career, everyone. But yeah, you can find me on Letterboxd. You can find me on Blue Sky under the username Locations Aidan. That's pretty much it, to be honest. I mean, I'm not really as noticeable as other podcasters, to be fair.
Well, as for me, I can finally talk about what I've been doing, and I'm really happy to, because man, it's been a pain in the hole keeping this secret for so long. But I have made a BFI-funded short film called Song of the Suburbs about the history of the
Oh
British
wow!
suburbs.
Yeah.
It tells that story using archive footage spanning nearly a century. It covers immigration, poltergeists, and garden gnomes, and if you follow me on Letterboxd and on Instagram at Graham W Films, you'll find out first where it's screening and how you can see it. In other areas, I write for Byline Times. I write regularly for the Geek Show, including for the Geek Show's Patreon, where you can get a monthly bonus episode of this podcast, as well as many other goodies written by me and David and Mike, several other people. That's at www.patreon.com/The Geek Show. But until next time, that's been it for Pop Screen. I've been Graham.
I've been Aidan.
And we'll see you in a fortnight.